Accused deserter. The Army sergeant released by the Taliban in a controversial prisoner swap faces military justice. Advancing on Ramadi, Iraqi troops challenge ISIS stronghold with support from U.S. airstrikes. Music to the ears. The maestro who composed music for papal masses now takes a new life direction. And faithful to the end. After his special confirmation ceremony, Payton O'Brien is born to eternal life. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Tuesday, December 22nd, 2015. Good evening from Washington. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Brian Patrick with your news now. The soldier at the center of an international prisoner swap is now facing a military trial. Sergeant Bo Bergdahl is accused of desertion. Wyatt Goolsby joins us tonight with that story. Wyatt?
Brian, as if desertion isn't bad enough accusation, Sergeant Bergdahl is also facing a charge of misbehavior before the enemy. It's a rare charge that carries severe punishment. So we sat down today with a former military attorney to talk about the case. Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl making his first appearance in a military court at Fort Bragg today. He did not enter a plea. Bergdahl faces charges which could put the 29-year-old in prison for life.
Because of a case of this complexity, it can be weeks or months to trial.
Larry Morris is a retired colonel who served 27 years in the Judge Advocate General's Corps of the Army. He says Bergdahl is facing a general court-martial, which is the military's highest level court. Bergdahl said little today before the judge. Earlier, he did reveal more about his situation in interviews, which became the basis of the Serial podcast. He said he walked away from a combat outpost in Afghanistan in 2009 to try to bring attention to what he called poor leadership in his unit. The Taliban captured and held Bergdahl until President Obama secured his release last year as part of a swap involving 5 Guantanamo Bay detainees. Since then, the Army has debated what to do with Bergdahl, ranging from no jail time to the general court-martial. Morris says Bergdahl's charge of misbehavior is serious because it's a failure to do what a soldier is asked.
When people are complying, the rules are easy to enforce. But when you are that frustrated fellow soldier who thinks, I need to get out of this place, it is the bond to the fellow soldier that keeps you in that place and keeps you prepared and keeps you fighting.
Morris also tells me it would not be fair to call Bergdahl a traitor, as some people have. He says while charges are serious, treason is not one of them. It's also best to hold personal judgment until after the trial. Bo Bergdahl's next hearing is set for January 12th. Brian?
Wyatt, thank you. The White House expresses condolences to family members of U.S. troops killed in Afghanistan Monday. The White House says, quote, "Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims, their families, and their loved ones. 6 troops were killed in the attack near the Bagram airfield. More were injured." The White House continues, "The United States condemns this cowardly act, and we will continue to work together to promote peace and stability in Afghanistan." Could computer hackers literally flood American cities from anywhere in the world? That scenario is not as far-fetched as it may sound. Iranian hackers reportedly infiltrated computer software that controls the floodgates of this Rye, New York dam just 20 miles outside New York City. A former U.S. official familiar with the investigation revealed the classified details from 2013, first reported by the Wall Street Journal. Paul Rosenberg is mayor of the village of Rye Brook.
Well, what it says to me is, they're looking at everything. Was this a dress rehearsal for something larger? It also makes me concerned about the security of our infrastructure that is significantly more critical than the Bowman Avenue Dam.
Investigators believe the intruders were just probing to see what they could get into, but no damage was done. Hacking of dam controls has long been a Homeland Security concern. In 2013, hackers penetrated a sensitive database of U.S. dams maintained by the Army Corps of Engineers. Asked about the breach involving the dam in Rye, New York, the Department of Homeland Security replied with no comment on the alleged incident.
Obviously, it's fairly scary for us as a nation to imagine that somebody sitting on the other side of the world could hit a keystroke and all of a sudden water could start flooding through a dam.
The Department of Homeland Security says in a statement it's working with the federal and private sector to strengthen the nation's cybersecurity. Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. Searchers pull the first victim from the wreckage in Shenzhen, China. A massive landslide hit that city on Sunday. A pile of rain-saturated construction waste collapsed. Nearly 80 people are still missing. Thousands of rescue workers are searching for survivors. Churches in France tightened security leading up to Christmas. They're concerned about the threat of more violence following last month's deadly terror attacks in Paris. Churches will keep only one door open to help monitor visitors. The war on terror enters a new phase. Iraqi troops are advancing on Ramadi, trying to retake control of the town from ISIS militants. Coalition forces are using air power to support the Iraqi ground troops. Ramadi fell to ISIS in May. A group of Muslims received praise for protecting Christians who were riding with them on a bus in Kenya. That bus was stopped by gunmen reportedly connected with al-Shabaab. The militants wanted to separate the Christians from the Muslims, but the Muslims wouldn't allow it. They helped dress non-Muslim passengers in Islamic attire to conceal their identities and protect their lives. The refugee crisis in Europe hits a new milestone. 1 million refugees have now entered Europe this year. The majority have arrived on ships. International aid workers say thousands more drowned trying to make the dangerous journey. Many of the refugees are fleeing the Syrian civil war. Donald Trump may lead the Republican presidential pack, but a national poll questions his ability to win the general election. 50% of the people polled said they would be embarrassed if Trump were president. The Quinnipiac poll shows only 23% of Americans would be proud to have Mr. Trump as their president. We're just days away from the presidential election of 2016, or the year of the election, I should say. Former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum talks with our political director Lauren Ashburn about why he's a good choice for Catholics.
There are 4 of you in the race who are Catholic, and I spoke to another candidate and asked why should we vote for him over other Catholics. I'm going to ask you the same question.
Well, I don't know if you should necessarily vote for or against someone because they're Catholic. I think you need to look at whether the values that they're articulating are in line with your values and particularly in moral and cultural issues, Catholic values.
But all 4 have pretty much the same positions on social issues. And how do you differentiate yourself? For example, on gay marriage.
Yeah, I would make the argument, well, the other 3 have basically said, once the court decision was handed down, they said, it's the law of the land, it's time to move on.
I think Marco Rubio said it was a bad law and that he would work to reverse it.
Yeah, and that's not what he said. He wouldn't really do anything on the federal level. Both Rubio, Christie, in fact, every other candidate, maybe with the exception of Mike Huckabee, have all said there really isn't much they can do on the federal level, or they would do on the federal level. I think that's a mistake. I think that when a court exceeds its authority and acts outside of the Constitution and destroys and makes illegitimate the idea of man-woman marriage. To me, that is one that a president can't stand on the sideline and say, well, the court's made their decision. The court acts unconstitutionally. It's incumbent upon the President of the United States to uphold the Constitution, to do what he takes his oath to do, which is defend the Constitution. So I would disagree with all these other candidates that whether it's the issue of life, whether it's in marriage, the president has an obligation to go out and do what is constitutional, even though the court may say that it isn't.
And so what would you do?
What you can do is you can look at another decision that was made a year earlier by the court, which was to invalidate the Defense of Marriage Act, basically on the same grounds that they invalidated the state marriage laws, and say that the court acted outside of its constitutional authority, and then basically say, I will enforce the Defense of Marriage Act. That's one concrete step that the president can take to tell the court that they have outstepped their bounds.
Newly elected Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin orders the state to prepare new marriage licenses that do not include the names of county clerks. He issued an executive order today directing the revised marriage license forms to be issued to all county clerks. His order comes after Kim Davis, the Rowan County clerk, spent 5 days in jail. A pro-life group reports it was ordered to stop caroling outside a Virginia abortion clinic. We showed you Saturday's empty manger event in Falls Church. Pro-life supporters sang carols before an empty manger, symbolizing the babies lost to abortion. Well, after our cameras left, 2 police officers reportedly ordered the singing to stop, citing a local noise ordinance. Falls Church, by the way, has since backed off. That opens the door for the pro-life carolers to return to that clinic tomorrow. A new poll says a growing number of Americans support abortion. 58% think abortion should be legal in most cases. That's up from 51% at the beginning of the year. This poll was taken after a gunman killed 3 people at a Planned Parenthood clinic in Colorado. Dr. Charmaine Yost is president and CEO of Americans United for Life. Can we take this poll at face value?
I wouldn't. Look, polls are very frequently used in the political arena as a weapon, and that's exactly what this poll is designed to do. The question was very vague and asked people a very general question about did they support most or all abortions in terms of keeping them legal. So I think a more relevant poll is one that we saw recently that Kellyanne Conway from the polling company did that showed that when people know the truth about Planned Parenthood, when they are aware of the evidence that has been revealed on the undercover videos from the Center for Medical Progress, that they change their opinion about Planned Parenthood very dramatically. So polling in general really does depend on how the question is asked and what information the person on the other side of the line has when they're answering the question.
And it makes no sense that an apparently deranged gunman who kills 3 people justifies killing babies who are 8, 9 months in gestation. It just makes no sense at all. What will it take to change attitudes about abortion?
Well, I think the other really interesting thing about the polling company poll that came out was finding that the majority of Americans have still not seen the video evidence of the potentially illegal activity that Planned Parenthood is currently doing in their clinics. And so when people find out the information, it really changes what their opinion is. And so our job in the pro-life movement is to continue to emphasize getting the information out there about what the abortion industry is really all about.
Just today, a judge in Utah has ruled that Utah can cut off federal funding to Planned Parenthood. That reverses a previous decision. How important is this?
I think it's really important, particularly the fact that the judge reversed himself after considering more of the evidence. And he made a really important statement when he said that this is an issue that elected representatives should be dealing with and not the courts. That is where the abortion issue should be, is with the people, with the representatives who are as close to the people, who have strong opinions about this. And frankly, we as the American people should, state level and the federal level, are going.
What do you see in 2016 on this issue as we face a presidential election?
Do you know, part of the reason you're seeing this kind of polling data come out and pushback from Planned Parenthood is the pro-life movement right now is really on the move. There are so many opportunities in front of us. This is a high watermark like none that we've seen in 40 years of fighting against abortion. So pro-lifers should be really encouraged as we go into 2016 because there are huge opportunities in front of us.
Beginning with the March for Life in just a month from now. From Americans United for Life, Dr. Charmaine Yost, thank you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Coming up, SpaceX safely lands a 15-story leftover booster from its Falcon rocket back on Earth. And we meet the composer who contributed pieces to Masses for 3 popes. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday evening. I'm Brian Patrick, and for the first time, an unmanned rocket has returned to Earth, landing vertically. In its first mission since an accident last summer, SpaceX sent a Falcon rocket into orbit Monday night with 11 small satellites. It then landed the 15-story leftover booster at Cape Canaveral, Florida, an unprecedented success. SpaceX is trying for reusability to drive down launch costs and open up space to more people. Well, composing music for a papal liturgy would be a great honor to anyone. Imagine doing it 4 times. Jason Calvi sits down with a composer who's done just that.
Leo Nestor's music reverberated when Pope John Paul II visited St. Louis in 1999. And this fanfare rang out at the end of Pope Benedict's Mass in Washington. He also composed 2 chant pieces for Pope Francis's Mass in D.C. this year.
You just do it because you're enamored of the text. You want to spin a fabric around that.
His text came from the church's official Mass book, which offers a different text for entrance and communion chants every day.
The chant has the advantage of saying, these are the words the church wants you to hear right now at this moment.
But he says it's an art that could have been lost.
People threw out music programs in the 60s. You should have been there.
No, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I wasn't.
People threw out the chant books. People disbanded choirs.
Dr. Nestor has worked to restore sacred music. Not only in his original compositions like these, but in teaching the next generation at Catholic University of America.
Composers in the church write because the church desperately needs music.
At 67, he doesn't like to say he's retiring, but heading on to new adventures. The final note hasn't played in a mission of music.
Someone is putting words of meaning and faith into your mind and into your heart, into your soul.
And you can catch Dr. Leo Nestor's last Christmas concert at CUA. It plays right here on EWTN Christmas Day at 2 Eastern. The concert also airs on New Year's Day. And Brian, about 3,000 people packed in for that free concert with donations going to charity.
Jason, beautifully done story. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to that concert here on EWTN. Pope Francis moves forward with reforms within the church. He tells Vatican employees this week that resistance, difficulties, and failures by some are opportunities for growth, not discouragement. Dr. Chad Pecknold is a theology professor at Catholic University of America. Why was the Pope's Christmas address this year so closely watched?
Well, Brian, last year, the Pope blasted the Curia, nailing them for 15 curial diseases. And so everyone wanted to know, is he going to blast the Curia again?
Did he? Did he rebuke them again? Was it a little more gentle, maybe?
It was more gentle. It was more honey than vinegar. He was very concerned, I think, to outline, instead of curial diseases, curial antibiotics.
Great. So what do you see happening over this past year and moving into the next in terms of his reforms that he wants to get through, even though there is some resistance?
Yeah, clearly he sees the scandals that came through as part of the diseases, but he wants to sort of crowd out the vices with virtues. And so he focused on these 12 virtues, a catalog of virtues, which he based on an acrostic for the Latin word for mercy, misericordia. And the first letter, M, was missionary. He wants to communicate that the Curia should communicate the faith and care for the flock. This was first and foremost for Pope Francis, counseling the Curia to be concerned about missionary zeal, to counsel gentleness and humility, to counsel charity and truth. All of these are virtues of the gospel, and he recalled us to return to the essentials of the gospel, Brian.
How beautiful that ties in with this Jubilee Year of Mercy. So Francis is clearly a pastor, and I know when he's speaking to the Curia, he's speaking to all pastors. But the Curia, explain exactly what that is, what these people do. They're really not pastors so much, are they?
Well, some of them are, and some of them aren't. The over 50 different offices that represent the Curia do care for all of the church's concerns around the world. And so to call each of them to the year of mercy, to summon them to conversion, to gratitude, to penance, to renewal, to new life, is in a sense a call to the whole church. He talked about what he has to say to the Curia is what he'd also have to say to an ordinary parish. And I think it's a word that all of us need to hear.
And I think he makes it clear that he talks to them, you're the leaders. People are going to follow your direction.
Follow their example.
Set a good direction.
Set a good example, set a good witness, set an attractive witness. And of course, he also wished everyone a happy and holy Christmas.
And same to you, Dr. Chad Pecknold. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Up next, a boy confirmed this year by Cardinal Dolan passes to the next life. And the moon will be full on Christmas morning, a rare full cold moon. 98 years ago today, on the 22nd of December, St. Francis Cabrini died in Chicago. An Italian missionary, Mother Cabrini devoted her life to working with Italian immigrants here in the U.S. The naturalized U.S. citizen was the first American to be canonized, and she is the patron of immigrants. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday evening. I'm Brian Patrick. It is with a heavy heart that we report tonight the passing of Payton O'Brien. We were there earlier this year when 7-year-old Payton was confirmed by Cardinal Timothy Dolan. He suffered from a rare form of bone cancer, but it couldn't hold him back. He played all kinds of sports. He lived his life to the fullest. Please keep Payton and his family in your prayers as we approach Christmas. A nativity scene challenged in federal court will stay outside an Indiana courthouse. A judge dismissed a counter lawsuit today. The parties agree both religious and non-religious displays can remain at the Brookville Courthouse. Christina Arriaga is Executive Director for the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty, which represents EWTN and many others. We're grateful for our good lawyers. So the Becket Fund has this award, the Ebenezer Award. Tell us what it's about and who gets the top prize.
Every year, the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty sends a lump of coal to the government official that has perpetrated the worst and most ridiculous affront to the Christmas and Hanukkah time. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of contenders this year.
Who is at the top of the list?
Well, this year we're giving the award to a government facility in Salem, Virginia, a veterans hospital that actually banned any employee from saying Merry Christmas to the veterans. And they also banned Christmas carols from being sung in the hospital facility.
So if someone says Merry Christmas, what are they going to do?
I imagine that they'd be holed out and be, I don't know, the Grinch will come and get them. I don't know. The award was named after Ebenezer Scrooge, of course, the character from Charles Dickens' Christmas story. So hopefully there will be a moment of redemption in the story for the administrators of the hospital.
That would be a great ending to that story. So one of the cases we covered in Bella, New Mexico, remind us of what that case was about.
Yes, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, 1,800 miles away from Wisconsin, was offended that the town of Berlin, which is Bethlehem in Spanish, had a historical nativity scene. So they pressured the city into getting rid of it. But something great happened this year. A number of pastors got together and they had a gigantic major scene in the parking lot in front of City Hall, including a dozen barnyard animals. And a zebra and a donkey. Yay for religious liberty in Berlin.
I love the zebra. That's a great touch. What other cases on the list did you find really interesting?
Well, we had in Portland, Oregon, the town had a Christmas concert every year, and they happened to have it at the best facility to have it, a Catholic church. And the Freedom from Religion Foundation, again, all the way from Wisconsin, was offended at the sight of it, so they had to move the entire concert to a secular facility. And just today, unfortunately, we received the report that a veteran teacher in Maine had been told by email by her principal that she had to remove the teeny tiny Hello Kitty Christmas tree that she puts out every year for the kids around Christmas time.
Yeah, we can joke about this. The award is actually kind of funny, but this is a serious issue.
It is a serious issue. I mean, religion is part of culture, and I love jingle bells as much as anyone else, but the government cannot ban Christmas cookies the same way that it cannot ban ugly Christmas sweaters or people saying Merry Christmas. So exercise your religious liberty and tell Merry Christmas to everyone.
And I will sing Silent Night until they haul me off.
That sounds good.
Christina Arriaga from the Becket Fund. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you too, Brian.
We will see a special sight in the sky this Christmas morning. NASA says the last full moon of the year will peak just after 6 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday. This rare full cold moon, as it's called, shows up at the beginning of winter. A full moon hasn't appeared on Christmas Day since 1977. It won't happen again for 19 more years. For our EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Brian Patrick, and we leave you tonight with these nativity scenes shared by our EWTN viewers on our Facebook page. Good night. God bless you.